You would think when you're about to go live for a live stream at 8:30 on a Wednesday night, like you do every Wednesday night at 8:30, you'd have your headphones not tangled in a mess like this. But here we are. Oh, did I even? I probably didn't even check to make sure I have the right microphone setting. Yep, I got the microphone right, so I sound good, hopefully. But the headphones are a complete disaster here, so I'm gonna have to untangle these before we bring Jim in. Jim Hammond, of course, will join us here on the Panther-Lair Show as he does every week, and I'm glad to be with you. I'm glad everybody could be tuning in here for an hour of Pitt sports talk like we do here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You know, we always ask you to do like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com so you don't miss any of our exclusive Pitt video content. And then check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Got a lot of content there. Got a lot of content on the message boards, a lot of conversation on the message boards, and of course, a lot of video content right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You know, we do the daily morning Pitt videos. Those are always fun. Always a lot of interesting things to talk about there. And there's a lot of topics in Pitt sports to talk about, whether it's football, basketball, new athletic director hire, recruiting when it's recruiting season. Really year round, it's always recruiting season, right? But there's always lots of stuff to talk about. And so we do it on the Morning Pitt every day of the week. Monday through Friday, we talk about Pitt sports on the Morning Pitt. And then we have this weekly live show that we do every Wednesday night at 8:30. We have our post-game shows. And yes, we will be live tomorrow night after the Pitt-Syracuse game, which means we won't be going live until about 1 a.m. or so, hopefully 1 a.m. If we are starting that post-game show at 1 a.m., I feel like we're in good shape. I mean, hopefully we can do it earlier. Hopefully we can do it at 12:30 or something, but I'm not going to get greedy. It's 7:30 game. We'll see when we get out of the stadium, but we'll be live after the game. But because we'll be live after the game, I've mentioned this a few times this week, but I'm going to say it again, because we'll have the live stream right after the game, live post-game show. We won't have a morning Pitt ready for you at 5 a.m. like it always is every day of the week. Instead, what we're going to do is a live morning Pitt, a live taping of the morning Pitt. I'm thinking at 10 a.m. on Friday morning. So we'll have the live post-game show after the game tomorrow night. And then Friday morning, we'll go live at 10 a.m. And the post-game show tomorrow night, we'll have the whiskey, and then the live morning Pitt at 10 a.m. we'll have the coffee. Although I don't know if you're like me, I'm like done with my second cup of coffee long before 10 a.m. Even on a day like Friday when I'm going to be not a lot of sleep, we'll have that second cup of coffee done probably by 8. So we won't have any coffee during the live morning Pitt at 10 a.m. But we will be live at 10 a.m. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Look, you guys don't want to work on a Friday, so tune into the post-game show. Tune into the live morning Pitt. We'll do some further discussion of the Pitt-Syracuse game. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously the live shows I think are going to be a lot of fun, but I think the game itself is going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be a good contest. I don't know if I don't want to say these two teams are evenly matched, but I think they present interesting matchups for each other. And that's I think could lead to a pretty compelling game. I'm not sure if I see an outcome in this game that is surprising, short of a blowout either way. I'm not sure there's much that we're going to be surprised by, but then again, games always seem to come up with something. The Cincinnati and West Virginia games with the comebacks, that long drive at North Carolina. I think I was a little bit surprised that they could pull that off. And then winning because the guy misses a 40-yard field goal and all the other nonsense that Cal engaged in. There's a lot of, I guess there's still a lot of surprises out there for us. But either way, we'll be talking about it right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com after the game tomorrow night. And then again on Friday morning, it'll be a lot of fun to talk about it one way or the other. Like whatever happens, it's going to be interesting. I'm pretty sure about that. That's maybe the one thing I'm sure of going into this game is it's not going to be boring. I wonder if Jim agrees about that. Let's bring Jim in here. Oh, Jim, I forgot to click the button. There we are. Good evening, Jim. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Do you see any this game is not going to be boring, right? Like I have to think it's going to be interesting no matter how it goes. I highly doubt that there'll be a boring game tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's how I felt. And I think just some of the things I've written this week, I've said that. I was like, all along, I've expected this just to be high scoring, back and forth. Both teams are very much capable of winning this game. And I don't know. I still feel that on the, less than 24 hours going into it. I mean, I still feel the same way. I think Syracuse is going to be able to move the ball. I think Kyle McCord's a good quarterback. I think Eli Holstein's going to have a bounce back game, and Desmond Reed's going to do Desmond Reed things. So I think, it's going to be fun. And, that's, if you're going to play on national TV during a weeknight, you might as well be an entertaining game to watch. And I think the ACC at least has that going for it.
Yeah, which is nice. What was I just gonna I guess like I keep thinking the same thing too about it being like, oh, high scoring and back and forth affair. I mean, does it feel like every time we sort of predict or expect a high scoring back and forth affair, it ends up being, I mean, what was the final score of the Carolina game? Was it 34-24?
Yeah,
that one was.
I think we thought the same thing. It was going to be,
oh, this is going to be crazy. It's going to be in the 40s and all this. And I mean, 34-24 is not, I wouldn't call that a low scoring game, but I wouldn't say it's a high scoring game. That seems like a perfectly normal college football score, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the over unders hanging around 62, 63 these days. So they've had a couple high over unders, and I think they've hit the under 2 straight weeks. So
yeah. I was actually just going to look up to see. Have you looked recently to see what the line is or where any of the numbers are?
I thought it was hanging at 5.5.
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing
62.
I'm seeing 62.5 and Pitt -6.
Oh, -6. Okay, I just looked at scores and odds. I don't know when they last updated, but or who they're even citing here, but they have it at an even 62 and 5.5. I don't know. That sounds about right. I feel like 62 is a number that should get hit. Either one team scores 40 and the other scores in the 20s, or both teams get into the. I wouldn't be surprised if both teams get into the 30s, or it's 38-28 or something like that. I mean, that seems like a pretty kind of expected score, don't you think?
I think so. I think I said 38-35 Pitt in the behind enemy lines with the Syracuse website this week.
Okay. Just because I see this question here, we don't have any super chatters yet, so I'm just going to go with this question that just popped up. T-Man wants to know Narduzzi's record off a bye. I feel like I keep seeing this and then I keep not paying attention to it. Did you happen to? Is it 9-1 or something? Or
yeah, somebody asked him on Monday, and they had the number ready, and I forget, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't even know I was that good coming off of a bye." So,
wait, I have the transcript pulled up for something else that I want to. Here's a question. You're 9-1 coming off of rest. What's been your approach? A lot of guys are successful after time off, whatever. So according to that question, 9-1 after a bye. I think I saw our good friend Pug said so the Thursday night game as a favorite after a bye or something. It was 6-1. As a favorite. So there's a lot of caveats here, coming off a bye and being a betting favorite. Narduzzi is 6-1 and he's won the last 6 in a row. So I guess that's relevant to tomorrow night since it's coming off of rest and Pitt is the favorite.
That's a very detailed stat.
It is. But I mean, if there's 7 games, that's not a small sample size.
Right.
Oh, I was going to say, we talk about games being boring. What's been Pitt's most boring game this year? Youngstown State, I guess. Kent State was kind of a boring game. I mean, it was maybe more competitive than we expected it to be for at least a little while.
I think it was Youngstown.
Yeah. What do we take that out? I feel like that's too easy though. I mean, the Cincinnati game was got kind of boring when it looked like it was going to be a 3-touchdown blowout going through the third quarter.
Yeah.
That one really manufactured excitement in the final 20 minutes. West Virginia was, I thought, compelling throughout
the whole game. Yeah.
Carolina too. The Cal game. I mean,
Pitt
won, and it was always close. So I mean, that makes it sort of compelling, but you can have close games that are kind of boring. And that one, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a simpleton and I need a lot of offense and scoring and touchdowns and stuff like that to make it. T-Man says, the Cal game was boring on the offensive side of the ball. And so I kind of agree about that. I think an exciting game is a game where there's like long passes and touchdowns and stuff like that. I mean, it's not like that you can't have exciting defense, but I don't know. That was kind of, I don't think that's going to be the case here in this game. I feel like we have a lot to talk about though, Jim.
Yeah,
it's been a while. I mean, like we did this last week, but since then there's been, an athletic director was hired. There's been an exhibition basketball game. There's been, 2 more volleyball wins. Incidentally, I don't know if you know this, but since Olivia Babcock appeared on the Morning Pit as a guest, Pitt volleyball is 2-0. She has, in those 2 games, 33 kills and 11 blocks, and was named National Player of the Week. Now, I'm not going to take credit for that, with the fact that she appeared in the Morning Pit and then became National Player of the Week. But, I mean, I don't think it's unconnected. I don't think it's not worth investigating a possible connection between her appearance on the Morning Pit and being National Player of the Week. I mean, you see connection, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, Kenny Pickett went to the Heisman ceremony by having a show on this channel.
Exactly. I mean, this is exactly what I'm saying. This is the point I'm making. I feel like prior to the 22 season, I did over the summer, I had an interview with Brandon Hill, an interview with Kalijah Cansey, and I thought I had one other.
Servassier?
No, it wasn't Servassier. I forget who it was. There was one other. But, I mean, either way, both guys got drafted. One guy was a first-round draft pick. And was he ACC Defensive Player of the Year?
He was.
Cansey? So, again, these student athletes need to realize where the money's getting made, I mean, and I don't just mean in terms of NIL, but I mean, success follows appearing on, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I mean, this is kind of where, it's some weird.
Is it me?
It's like hailing here or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's you.
Man,
that's some pretty serious hail.
It's very strange. It almost sounds like it's coming in my house.
It's October. I mean, have you been watching any scary movies or something like that? Getting ready for Halloween?
I mean, no, but this doesn't sound like a serial killer. This sounds like rain coming in my windows that might be open over there or something. And so it's not death by machete. It's just death to the computer that's set up over there inside that window. Oh, geez. Anyway. Oh, well, we'll find out in 45 minutes. We'll see what's going on. Anyway, Jim, you don't have a home field shirt on today.
I did the 4 rotation, so I wanted to give it a little bit of a break. You have a home field shirt on.
I do, of course. But is that a Grateful Dead bear kicking a football? Is it a punting Grateful Dead shirt?
It's a Grateful Dead. He is kicking a football. It's the July 6, 1967 concert at the Civic Arena.
Oh, didn't know they made their way out to Pittsburgh in the late 60s. But how about that? Interesting that there's a kicking a football in the Civic Arena, huh? Who knew? Things were weird in the 60s. Anyway, This is from home field, though. That's a sweet rock. Probably predates the 1960s, I would say, this rock, wherever home field found that guy. But he's awesome. He's holding the football. He looks great. The shirt looks great because everybody knows about homefieldapparel.com. What was that, Jim?
There was Pitt tweeted something, the message from the athletic director. We'll talk all about him. So
turn your volume down on everything, Jim. Somebody complained about your phone dinging on the live stream last week. So you should turn down.
I think it was my computer.
All right. Well, I guess you can't turn that down without silencing the audio you're getting from me. So we need to tell people not to text you between 8:30 and 9:30. Anyway, homefieldapparel.com has the best Pitt gear that you're going to find. Best gear of just about any college possible. It looks awesome and feels great. I've had this shirt for years. It still fits great. It goes through the wash. It's still super soft, super comfortable. I love it. I'm a big fan. And remember, you can go to homefieldapparel.com and use the promo code PIT24 to get 15% off your first order. Homefieldapparel.com, promo code PIT24 to get 15% off your first order. We had a super chatter that came in. I want to get to him because we appreciate that. RJC Man 38 says the defense keeps improving. I look for Pitt to sack and upset Syracuse's passing game. Eli Holstein will extend plays with his legs. Should be a fun game. They do need Eli Holstein to run. We'll talk about the defense getting to McCord in a second. Eli Holstein, among quarterbacks in the ACC, I was looking this up on Pro Football Focus. So Pro Football Focus, when they rank quarterback rushing, Jim, they like take out sacks sort of. So like the rushing yards don't exactly line up. Like the stats don't line up with what like Pitt officially releases, but they do it for all the quarterbacks. So I feel like you're still comparing, apples to apples. And according to Pro Football Focus, Eli Holstein among ACC quarterbacks is 6th in rushing touchdowns, 3rd in rushing yards, 2nd in yards per attempt, 2nd in yards after contact per attempt, 2nd in runs of 10 yards or more, 2nd in scramble yards, 3rd in rushing first downs, and actually overall in the entire ACC, he's 15th in rushing first downs. He's got like 19 rushing first downs so far this season. Desmond Reed has like 20. So, yes, the legs are a big part of it. And I don't know, Narduzzi was asked about, let me see if I can find the quote. He was asked at that press conference, whatever day that was, Friday, about whether Eli Holstein used his legs enough in the game against Cal. Narduzzi was asked, did Eli run around enough in that game? Narduzzi, quote, I don't know. Maybe that's a great question for him. Did he run around enough? Could he run around enough? I mean, I think they did a good job of containing the pocket. Every quarterback, every defense is going to do it a little bit different. Are they just going to get you, or are they going to try to capture you, as we've talked maybe in the past? But they did a nice job of kind of just sealing and pushing the pocket and condensing things. I always just like reading Narduzzi quotes aloud, like word for word. He says, if a quarterback sees this big old hole as wide as this aisle here, it invites you to take that. But when the seams are smaller and you're kind of going, if I try to sneak through there, is that guy going to stick his arms out, grab me by the face mask or the shoulder and pull me down? And it's a bad scramble. So you got to feel those lanes. And if you got the right ratios, it's harder to get out. And I think they did a good job of keeping him in there and making him have to throw it out of there. And they did a good job on the back end. And again, we'll learn from it. I think it was a great learning game, and we got the win at the same time. So, I don't know. What did he say? So I guess he basically said that Cal clogged the lanes, right? And didn't give Eli Holstein. What did Cal like? Cal just defended everything, right? They took away the deep passes. They took away the quarterback run. I guess they left open sort of the mid-range passes. Is that what was available that Eli Holstein didn't take in that game?
To my untrained eye, yes. I thought that's what was there. And there was a couple times I thought he was rolling out and he had opportunities to run it, and he was just trying to. It just looked like he was trying to get a pass completed. Like he needed it, like, to see a few go through the hoops. So I don't know, when looking at the game and like to this comment, I mean, there was a couple things they didn't do that they were doing the first 5 weeks, and I think Eli Holstein's running is a big part of that. I don't think there was any designed runs, and usually he's pretty good as a scrambler. So I guess Narduzzi said like he could have maybe run a little bit more, but they weren't there. But at the same time, I think they could have set him up a little bit better too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to. There aren't really many like designed runs that I can think of. Like Pro Football Focus says he had 4 yards on a designed run. I don't really recall when that, like, the only like clear run play that I can think of, like a called running play. And I think the question is, when we're talking about Eli extending plays with his legs, is not really just talking about designed run plays. But I think as I think back on the game, as far as designed run plays go, the only one that I can really remember is the one that he fumbled on like that last drive when it was like second down. They got like 3 yards with Desmond Reed on first down, and they were going to run Holstein. He was running to the left, and he fumbled the handoff or fumbled the snap or whatever it was. And it was pretty clear that was going to be a quarterback run play. But I can't remember. Did they run an option in that game too? I think they ran an option play to the freaking short side of the field, if I recall. But either way, like there just wasn't much of that. There wasn't much of the design runs, and Holstein wasn't doing much with his legs at all. That's a big part of it, though. I mean, it's got to be there because it's a big part of the threat, right? And so I don't know what the best way to do that is. Just hope they leave lanes open, or do you set out intentionally to call 3 to 5 QB runs throughout the game?
I don't know. I mean, I think it just kind of goes hand in hand with just kind of setting up the defense. And I don't think they really set up Cal much the other day. Like, I just don't think, like, throwing the Desmond Reed, like, that's always been a thing, and they only targeted him once. Like, giving Eli Holstein a couple design runs, they might have done it once. I mean, I think there was just, they were panicked that they weren't scoring. So they're like, all right, we got to press it down the field. We got to do these 20-yard passes. We got to pick up big chunks, because for whatever reason, they kind of like panicked almost. So I think if they just kind of settle back in and just kind of do what they were doing those first 5 weeks, a lot of that stuff's going to be there. And if that stuff's there, then you can kind of build off of it. Then you can have more running lanes with Holstein. So I don't know. I think we'll see if it was a learning experience. I can see why they're treating it as such, but I don't think like Cal figured out Pitt's offense. I think they just kind of had to reset a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other part of this, defense keeps improving. I look for Pitt to sack and upset the Syracuse passing game. They're definitely going to have to get pressure on on Kyle McCord, the Syracuse quarterback. It's not easy. I think it seems like Syracuse is doing a good job protecting him. I don't think he's been sacked a ton of times through 6 games this season. When I was looking this up, according to Pro Football Focus, defenses have blitzed Kyle McCord on 140 dropbacks. They've created pressure on 37 of those, which is 26% of the blitzes get home and create pressure on McCord. Compare that with Cal and Fernando Mendoza. He gets pressure on almost 50% of the time when teams blitz. So blitzes, for whatever reason, are just not creating pressure. If you can get pressure on McCord, he completes about 10%. His completion percentage drops about 10% from when he's clean. He's thrown 2 interceptions. It's better to get pressure on him. I don't know what the best approach is for Pitt in this game. I mean, I'm guessing the answer is just, a mix of blitz and coverage, but I kind of almost think like, just go after him. You're not going to cover well enough to really have that much success just rushing forward and dropping 7, right? So you might as well get after him, try to hit him a bunch of times like they hit Criswell at North Carolina, and just try and knock him off his game that way. I don't know. What's the balance, Jim? Or do you just play totally aggressive or totally conservative?
I mean, I think they're just going to be who they are. I mean, I don't think they're going to like really switch things up. They kind of always do what they do. They're going to bring pressure. There's going to be blitzes, and in Syracuse's 1 loss this year, McCord was sacked 4 times. So, I mean, Stanford they were able to have some success there. But the one thing that Narduzzi said, I think either the other day or last week, that struck me is that McCord's really good on 3rd down. I think he said something like 74%. So that's going to be, that's going to be the battle. And I think that's probably what's going to decide the game, is how well Pitt gets off the field on 3rd down. They're usually pretty good at it. Cal had some success against them. North Carolina had a little bit of success against them, but typically Pitt's good at getting off the field on 3rd down. They give up yards, they bend, but they don't break. And usually on 3rd down, they're pretty good. So I think that's just going to be like probably one of the biggest battles of the game, is 3rd downs when Syracuse has the ball.
I feel like 3rd down, and we might have talked about this at some point. I feel like 3rd down has been weird for Pitt this year. And I have this sort of like theory, and it might not actually be backed up by anything, but I had this theory that because teams are more inclined to go for it on 4th down, like what they do on 3rd down and their approach on 3rd down is different. It's changed, because 3rd and 8, you're no longer trying to get 8. You're only trying to get 4 or 5, to set yourself up with that makeable 4th down. But if they're in, further up the field than the 38 or the 40, it feels like teams are viewing it as 4 down territory. And so now, whereas 3rd and 8 from the, a team's own 42, Pitt in the past viewed that as an obvious passing down. They put the Delta defensive package out there. They got crazy with blitz packages and things like this. Now, if you put the Delta out there and you rush 7, they very well could run a screen or even a draw handoff or something that takes advantage of that. And, because they're only trying to get 4 or 5. And so now you have to account for that and be prepared for it. I think it takes them out of their game a little bit. I feel like they're still in the Delta defense a lot, but maybe not quite as much. And maybe it was some of the games earlier in the year when Cincinnati and West Virginia were run-heavy teams anyway, but I feel like it's taken them out of their game a little bit, and I think it's affected how they defend on third down and how effective they are on third down, because it was easier when it was like, oh, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Okay, you're going to pass, and we're going to look like we're rushing 6 and only rush 3, or look like we're rushing 3 and send 7, or something like that. And I don't know, like, do you think this is just a theory I have in my head, or do you feel like you've seen similar things?
I mean, I think in the West Virginia game that was kind of true, but I mean, like overall, they're still 30th in third down percentage defense. Like they're still doing a pretty good job at it. And like I was just checking the stats real quick. The most random thing in the world is that Northern Illinois is the top team in the country in third down defense. Like you would think it would just be Georgia or like somebody, but it's Northern Illinois. They have
Shout
17. Yeah, 17 of 87 teams are converting against them on third down. That's insane.
Wow, that's really good. So, I mean, but like you said, Pitt is 30th, but I mean, they're giving up 41%, and I don't feel like 41%. I feel like you're good if you keep teams under 40. So they're right on that cusp, but one big game and it could boost it up pretty high. I don't know. It feels like it's been slightly more porous than previous years. Now, there was a comment in here. Oh, Ryan says it. I'm gonna get. There were other comments before this, but this ties into what we're talking about. How do you feel about the defensive line? He says, was last game just a random good game, or if guys actually started coming on? How would you attack covering the tight end from Syracuse and other good tight ends? So on the tight end question, and I'll just hit it really quick. I mean, obviously Cal had a lot of success. We've seen teams in the past have a lot of success. Oronde Gadsden is not one of those guys who's had a lot of success. 2021. He had 1 target, 1 catch, 14 yards. 2022, he had 5 targets against Pitt and 0 receptions. And he didn't play last year because he was hurt. So, he's very good, but he hasn't really had that success against Pitt. It's obviously something to watch out for when you're a good player at a talented position like that. But more to the point on the defensive line, though, Jim, what do you think? Was last game just a random good game? It's just what happens. Guys just get lucky. Or do you feel like it's actually a sign of progress for that group up front?
I think it's been progress. And I just kind of felt like they would get better over time and with more reps and more game. Like, because you look at that defensive tackle position, it was like they played a bunch of seniors last year. A lot of these guys, like Isaiah Neal and Sean Fitzsimmons, they weren't really out there. So this is like kind of their first taste of really getting to play college football. And in Fitzsimmons' case, it's only been 2 games. So I don't know. I think it's just kind of getting better. I mean, the defensive ends, I don't know if I'm counting on a ton of like Jimmy Scott 3-sack games moving forward, but I think he's a good player. I think he's able to make plays. I think Nate Matlack's going to keep doing what he's doing, and he's going to either get a couple sacks eventually or force other guys to have some sacks. But I think it's been better. I think they do have something, and I just think it was a slow start. I think it was but I kind of felt like it was always going to be that way, just with the inexperience. It was all either transfers or guys that have never played before. So I don't know. I just kind of think it's clicking all of a sudden.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I think the addition of Sean Fitzsimmons is huge. I think that's had a really positive impact. Jimmy Scott's not going to have 3 sacks all game. He might have 3 sacks. Actually, if he has 3 sacks the rest of the season, that'll be pretty good. And that's not disparaging of Jimmy Scott, but he would end up with 7 sacks. I mean, I think people would take that. If you said, hey, Jimmy Scott's going to have 7 sacks this year, people would take it hands down. I feel like Nate Matlack, it's got to happen at some point, right? You can't be like at the top of the conference, one of the top in the nation in pressures and just never finish. It's got to happen. He's got to have this game where he gets 2 sacks or something like that. I feel like it's got to be coming. And then, with the tackles, I think there's positive steps there. So I guess to Ryan's question, I don't think it was just a random game. I think it was a sign of a step forward. I don't know that the defensive line is going to produce 3 sacks this week. If they do, I'd be willing to contend that Pitt would win if that's actually the case. But I think they're taking steps in the right direction. I think it's good progress. Scott Mitchell says special teams might prove to be the difference again. Both kickers for Syracuse haven't made a field goal beyond 33 yards through 6 games. I think I saw they've had a bunch of kicks blocked too. Did you see this?
Yeah,
stats.
It's been messy.
All right, so I'm not really the type to go into a game expecting blocked kicks, but I do think if it's a battle of field goal kickers, and I don't know if this game will be, but if it is, I think I'm taking Pitt and Ben Sauls over anybody, right?
Yeah, Syracuse combined kickers are 5 of 10 this year.
Ah,
So yeah, with a long of 33. Yeah, so I don't even know which one's going to kick. I don't know which one they've settled on. But
right.
what was the game this week? The coach was like, "We're having Arizona State." He's like, "We're having open tryouts." Like after they
Oh,
lost the
really?
game, yeah, they lost to Cincinnati. Like missed a bunch of
Uh,
kicks, and like in his press conference, he's like, "No, I'm being serious. Like we're going to have tryouts on campus."
did you see Ben Sauls has like some NIL, like a sweatshirt you can buy or a t-shirt? So he tweeted it, or it's Pitt NIL store or something like that. But it's like an image of Ben Sauls doing the shark thing
Oh,
that all the linebackers are doing. Like it was, I don't know. They had a picture that went with it. I forget what game it came from, but it's him doing the shark thing, and you could get Ben Sauls on a t-shirt doing the linebackers. I was like, did Ben Sauls pick that logo, or did they just think that was cool? I thought it was funny to have a kicker doing a linebacker celebration, and that's the NIL gear you can get. Pitt Tough Guy says, huge news. NCAA President Baker announced today he favors private equity participation. This follows the Big 12 saying they are in private equity discussions, and Florida State joining with JP Morgan's 6th Street Capital. Thoughts? Jim, I'm not smart enough, but it feels bad to have private equity involved in college sports, because it's already a solely for-profit business, but I feel like it would get even like trashier if you get like real outside money involved. Do you have any insight or thoughts on that, Jim?
that just kind of feels like there's going to be advertisements on like Pitt's uniforms eventually.
I feel like that would be like the least bad outcome of private equity. Like yeah, there would be that, but like I feel like it could get so much worse than that. And yeah, I don't know. I like solve your own problems. Like solve the problems that you have right now. Figure out a system for paying the players. Figure out a system for actually sharing the revenue before you go get, because it's this whole idea of this outside influx of cash, right? That you're just going to be able to, all of a sudden now you're going to be able to give all this money to the players, and well, for what? It's like these cities that sell their parking meters to Saudi Arabia, and that somebody like Pittsburgh almost did it. Somebody did it.
Isn't it Chicago?
Chicago, yeah, like sold all their parking meters to like Saudi Arabia for like $1 billion.
And they can't get out of
like,
the deal.
It's like 58
it's
years.
Worse than the grant of rights of the ACC.
It really, I mean, it makes like selling Manhattan for trinkets look like a great deal. Like the value over the course of 58 years is something like hundreds of billions of dollars, and they sold it for like $1 billion. And it's like, wait, for 58 years? I think I saw that because Bill Peduto was like tooting his own horn about the fact that he didn't sell his parking meter to Saudi Arabia. And I was like, things are getting weird, man. ZC717 says, well, one thing is for certain, I don't think you have to worry about any Dan Villari game this year. With that being said, I'm looking forward to the quarterback matchup of Eli Holstein and Kyle McCord. Yeah, I think Dan Villari has like less than 5 carries. He does have a couple rushing attempts this year, but nothing like what he did last year. It doesn't seem like the Wildcat tight end is part of Syracuse's offense this year. So it's like, that has to be one of the worst things I've ever seen in a Pitt game. Like, I can't think of many worse like course of events or series of events over the course of a game than watching that dude just run all over Pitt's defense, like time and time. And he had like 12 carries or something like that, or 15. Like it wasn't like he just carried the ball 3 times for 100 yards. Like it happened a lot, is my point. And they just never stopped it. Like I got the impression from Narduzzi and the players this week that they still kind of have nightmares about it, and they absolutely should still have nightmares about that. That should be the biggest embarrassment any of them ever suffer in their lives, is allowing Dan Villari to run. Did you find the stats?
17 carries, 154 yards, and a touchdown. 9.1 yards per carry.
This is the thing. 17 times that dude lined up and took a direct snap and just ran the ball. And 17 times he did it, and you gave up 9 yards per carry. Like, I can't. There is nothing worse that has ever happened to Pat Narduzzi in his career as a head coach or a defensive coordinator. And if there is, I can't imagine what it would be. I mean, that's awful. That's worse than the 76-61 game, and they all felt really bad after that game. This is worse. It's terrible. Yeah. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on Dan Villari?
No, he has 6 touches this year, and I'm guessing that's probably about where it's going to stay. I wanted to ask, you talked to someone new today.
Oh, you want to talk to me about the athletic director?
Yeah.
I don't know. People get mad when I stop talking about football sometimes. There were some comments this morning because I after the exhibition game last night recorded a morning pit, and there were comments this morning that we should only talk about football. So I don't want to alienate the listeners. But you're right. Allen Greene was introduced to the media today. Did you watch the live stream of the press conference or any of the videos that came out?
Yeah, I watched all of them. I did a little bit of homework, so that's why I feel like
good. Yeah. I don't want to waste your time. I mean, that was a long press conference. That was like 37 minutes, and then we talked to Capel for about 5 minutes, and we talked to Allen Greene for another 5 minutes. So it's a solid hour investment of your time. So I want to make it worthwhile. I was impressed. You know what I mean? I think he said all the right things. You know what impresses me about people when they get up to a podium to give a speech or a press conference or whatever it might be, and they don't just read off the paper. Might have a few notes, a few guide points for themselves, but they're comfortable in what they think and what they believe and what they want to say, that they can just talk. And Allen Greene references notes a few times, but mostly just talked. And this is something that, like, in all like walks of life, I notice this when people do it, or when people are just reading off the page. Like, and I don't know why it bugs me. The thoughts are the thoughts, and that person wrote, or someone wrote it for them, and they approved to read this speech. But like, it bugs me when somebody reads like that. I like when someone's able to just speak, and Allen Greene did that, and I think it sort of indicates, like I say, sort of a belief in the comments. Like, if you really believe something and you really think something, then you should be able to just say it. I should be able. I don't need to read off the page. There's no greater embarrassment in the lives of Pat Narduzzi and the defensive players at Pitt than Dan Villari rushing for 152 yards on 17 carries. Like, I don't need to read that off the page because I know it in my heart and believe it. And so that was one thing that stood out to me. And so when he says he's committed to NIL, when he says he's committed to innovative ways of making Pitt competitive and achieving at the highest levels, I kind of believe him because it seemed genuine and it came across well.
Yeah, I thought he came across really well. And I mean, it just like, it dawned on me. I was like, oh yeah, like he's already been an AD before at like a big school. Like, he is very much in his comfort zone. He's already like, he can like crack a joke and schmooze and just talk off the cuff. So I thought that was all impressive. So I don't know. I mean, I thought even on that little sidebar I watched, and I think, he kind of talked about like, yeah, like, we know it's football and basketball than everything else. And I think that was notable. I think that's what people want to hear. A funny part of that was, I think Jerry asked him a question. Like, it was kind of more of like something you'd be asked on like a job interview. And he like thought about it. He's like, I don't really like that question. I'm not going to answer it.
Yeah. He said like, what about your personality makes you like good for the job or something like that. And he didn't want to be introspective like that. I told Jerry that whatever file he has in his head of like, different types of questions, whatever file has the Pat Narduzzi injury questions, like put the Allen Greene introspective personality questions in that file as well. Like, sorry, Jerry, we don't talk about personality here. No, but I thought he was good. And what you said about like, his focus on football and men's basketball, I mean, that comment I thought was stark. I mean, he said like very directly, like being asked about non-revenue sports. And it was like this lady, it was a reporter for the University of Time. So like Pitt's newspaper asked him, the success of the non-revenue sports, how much did that mean to you as far as coming here? And I mean, he said, everybody feels good about it, but, we know we know where the supper is. You know, we know what really drives, what the drivers are. And a lot of athletic directors will beat around the bush on that topic. He didn't beat around the bush, and they'll beat around the bush even though we know that they all know what's important. He didn't beat around the bush and was very direct about it. Did you happen to watch the Jeff Capel video too?
Yeah, and I thought it was noteworthy how he answered your question. Like,
yeah.
But he was that comfortable to answer it that directly.
And just like, no. So for anybody who didn't watch it, I asked Jeff Capel, I was like, okay, let's say, this afternoon, Allen Greene walks into your office and says, Jeff, what do you need from me? What can I do for you? And without even hesitating, he said, NIL, I need money. And like, if you notice, he repeated it because I was standing like right in front of him. I had a dumbfounded look on my face because I didn't actually think I heard him say what he actually said. He's like, NIL, I need money. And I was like, and he's like, NIL, I need money. And I was like, and that's it. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay. Did you ever see the movie How High, starring Method Man and Redman?
Not enough that I would like know a reference.
Through a series of comical events, Method Man and Redman end up going to Harvard, as you would expect. And anyway, Redman has a good friend who moves into the dorm with them, and the friend's name is I Need Money, because he never speaks, but he's got a grill that says I need money. And Redman says the first time I met him, he walked up to me and handed me a paper and said, I need money. And he was like, well, shoot, I need money too. So the whole time, after Jeff Capel said, I need money, all I could think about was that movie. It's a great movie. It's cracked me up. Anyway, yeah, I thought it went really well. And I think Allen Greene said a lot of the things that Pitt fans wanted to hear. I think they liked his cliches. Our good friend Zelda's Open Roof on the message board said, it cracks me up how much you guys get excited about cliches, commenting to the other people on the message board. But he said the right cliches. Those press conferences are always going to be filled with cliches, but he hit the right ones. And let me see. Pitt Chag says, very impressed with Allen Greene today. I was too. I thought he did well. I know it's like the easiest thing in the world to win the press conference, but it doesn't always happen. People don't always win the press conference, and it doesn't have to be a complete Titanic, Hindenburg. What's another disaster not incurred by terrorism? Give me a third one. Come on. Titanic, Hindenburg. Nothing. Come on.
The Johnstown flood.
The Johnstown flood. Sure. Why not? It doesn't have to be a Titanic, Hindenburg, Johnstown flood like the Kevin Stallings press conference. But I've seen plenty of press conferences that weren't necessarily won. They were fine, but they weren't won like this one, I think, was today. I think Pitt fans who watched that had to have enjoyed it. Anything else? Anything else stand out to you from what he said, or what Joan Gable said, or what the Board of Trustees chairperson said today?
I thought it was just, he didn't answer some questions like too fully. Like he didn't like back himself into a corner. Like you don't want to promise an on-campus stadium the first day on the job. So I thought he was, reserved in a lot of answers, and it's kind of a wait and see approach. I mean, the guy just got here, so like he doesn't know all the ins and outs of everything. So I thought it was good that he just kind of remained upbeat, answered the question, but didn't get too detailed.
Yeah. I thought he was brief when he wanted to be brief and elaborated when he wanted to elaborate, but he was strategic in all of it. He's 47 years old, Jim. He's 2 years older than I am. He's an athletic director. What have I accomplished? I got 2 years to become the athletic director of a Power 5 school, I guess. Better get to work on that. Damn, that hurts. Let's see. See who hasn't... reading a lot of comments here. Adam Vinchik wants to know if we have a score and a bold prediction. You said 38-35?
Yes. That's
your prediction? I'll go like 38-28 will be my... Do you have a bold prediction in this game? I do. Do you have one?
I think this is like an EJ Burgetti, like one of his like favorite stats. I think Pitt is 28-2 when they get 5 or more sacks against an opponent.
Okay. Under Narduzzi, that is?
Under Pat Narduzzi.
Okay.
I think they're going to sack him 5 times.
Wow. That would be a lot. It would be a lot of sacks.
Stanford got to him 4 times.
They did, but...
Stanford stinks.
I feel like everybody else only got to him like 9 total times, right? But they haven't played anybody other than Stanford.
The team that sacked him the second most was Holy Cross. They got 3 on him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I like that. That's so you're predicting 5+ sacks and a 38-35 win. I'll go 38-28 win and a Rasheem Biles pick 6. It's coming.
Wow.
It's coming. He's going to be back. He's going to play, and he's going to make a you know what? Yeah. The Ben Saul shark. Not a pick 6, but a defensive touchdown.
Okay. Because it'd be
Rasheem Biles will score a touchdown in this game.
capacity.
I want to leave open even the possibility of like putting him in a special Wildcat package just as like a middle finger to the orange. You know what I mean? Like, I guess they should do it with like Gavin Bartholomew in the Wild. That would be the play of all plays. If they open the game with Gavin Bartholomew in the Wildcat, I mean, they already did like basically a handoff to him, right? On the first play of the Cincinnati game.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they got to do it. That would be the greatest thing ever. If they open the game with a Gavin Bartholomew Wildcat snap. That would be fantastic. What would you rather see? He was, so that's what I was going to say. Would you, if you had that, would you have him run or would you have him throw?
I would have to assume, because he's tried it so many times, like there are a bunch of weird trick plays in this offense. Like they usually just get blown up immediately, most notably in the West Virginia game. But I can see him throwing a pass. Lucas Kroll has a touchdown pass.
Yeah. Did Jared Wayne throw a touchdown?
I don't know if it was a touchdown. Or no, Jared Wayne threw it.
Jared Wayne threw it to Lucas Kroll. Lucas Kroll tried to throw in the Miami game, right? Yeah. Because when you have a Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback, you should definitely take the ball out of his hands. Stupid. These guys just overthink it sometimes. Like, they just need to keep it simple, stick to your base stuff, and run Gavin Bartholomew out of the Wildcat.
Or Biles.
What's that?
Or Rasheem Biles.
Yes. Have Gavin Bartholomew take a Wildcat snap and throw to Rasheem Biles. Like, the place is going to go nuts. 65-yard touchdown on the first play. Bartholomew. I just gave it away. We're going to have our guess the first. Oh, I didn't even post about the guess the first touchdown contest. I got to do that as soon as we get done here.
This Thursday's throwing me off.
Me too. I just gave away the first touchdown. It's going to be a 65-yard touchdown pass from Bartholomew to Biles. Let's see. RJC Man 38's a super chatter again, says, does any other Pitt Power 4 team have as strong a combination of offense, defense, and special teams as Pitt? I don't think so. I got to look at I mean, like, Georgia looked pretty good, you know, like Oregon looks pretty good. I mean, I'd have to check and see what their kickers are doing, but shoot, I feel like kickers are making 50-yard kicks all the time nowadays in some of these. And you know what? Despite what Texas did, what happened to Texas against Georgia, I mean, Texas still looks really good. You know, like there's a lot of good teams out there. I think there's a lot of teams with the potential to have, you know, as good, if not better, trio of offense, defense, special teams. But yeah, Pitt's got a great combo. You know, when they're playing at their highest, of course, they're coming off a game where their offense played their worst game. But yeah, Pitt's got a pretty good combination. It's probably, would you agree that it's, well, I was going to say, would you say it's the best trio under Narduzzi? But I mean, the defense was really good in 2021. And I don't remember the special teams being particularly bad. Shoot, they won the Virginia game with a kick return touchdown, right? Didn't Izzy Abanikanda have a kick return touchdown in the Virginia game? So they end up winning that game, and you know that was a huge touchdown. So 2021 had a pretty good trio of offense, defense, special teams. Is there anybody else that comes to mind, Jim?
Like
in Pitt teams, yeah.
Not really, because the years the defense was really good, like the offense wasn't.
Right.
Like 2019, like offense just wasn't there.
Yep. Eric Rogers says, Chris, what are your thoughts on the line jumping so high? What injuries are you hearing on the Syracuse side? Thanks in advance. So they're not going to have their leading receiver, right? Peña's
out.
Is out for this game. He's their leading receiver this season. Is there anybody? I saw that. Is there anyone else that's missing?
That's the only one that I I know of. I'm pretty sure like Marlo Wax, like their linebacker that's been there for like 100 years, like he's
Yep.
still on the team, but he hasn't been playing. I'm guessing
Okay.
he's not, but like he hasn't been playing either. So
Right. Yeah, that's all. I don't know if that has to do with the line. My guess is it's where the money's coming in, and that's why the line is moved. Mark Shillaju says, we've barely seen Rodney Hammond on the field, and Derek Davis has not been at all in the last few games. Do you think there are times when Pitt should play their other backs when running the ball? No. Personally, no. Like, I felt like, if anything, Desmond Reed didn't get that much usage in the Cal game. I'm just going to get his exact stats. He had, 16 carries and 1 catch. Like, 20 touches or less for Desmond Reed is plenty. Like, I would be willing to go up to 20 touches for Desmond Reed every game. So if anything, they didn't get him the ball enough. And again, he is their best playmaker. You know, he's their best overall playmaker, one of the best players on the team. No, I'm not taking him out for Rodney Hammond or Derek Davis. I'm taking him out for Rodney Hammond or Derek Davis if Desmond Reed needs rest. I'm not taking him out for Rodney Hammond or Derek Davis to accomplish some sort of goal on the field, because Desmond Reed is the guy who can accomplish those goals on the field.
And like even going back to like that Cal game, the time of possession was 38-22. So in those 22 minutes, it never made sense to take Desmond Reed off the field. Like there was never a point where it's like, okay, let's get Rodney a couple plays. Like, no, like you needed him on the field. Like he can take, like he won the game because he's able to run 72 yards at any given time. So there's always an infatuation. Like we need multiple backs. Why isn't this guy getting the ball? Like Desmond Reed's plenty good to just keep on the field at all times unless he needs to come out.
Yep, I agree. Ev says the crowd better be buzzing tomorrow. Get there early for pregame and let's make it a night. Pitt never draw. It just never happens on Thursday night. I think we talked about this before. The Thursday nights just don't bring a big crowd, you know?
Is it going to be the coldest night of the week too? Like it's been nice I think it's been nice all week except tomorrow.
Is it really? Yeah, tomorrow's high is only 60. God.
Then I think it shoots back up on the weekend. Like it's just like the night Pitt plays, it's going to be cold.
It is like cold, but it's still going to be in like mid 40s up into the 50s, which
it's good October football weather.
At night, right? Like you're like, if the weather at like 9 o'clock is 50 degrees, that's pretty good. Like that's comfortable. That's not cold. I mean, it's the coldest day of the week by definition, but it's not cold. Alan Balomo says, what can an athletic director do to encourage NIL donations? So this was something else that Allen Greene said. I asked him about, I asked him that question. What can an athletic director do to help support the NIL efforts? And he said, basically, I can tell people to give money to NIL. Like I can go to the donors and communicate to them the importance of donating to NIL. And I do think that's important, Jim. I think there's still a healthy portion of the Pitt fan base and the college sports fan base that views third-party collectives with a certain amount of skepticism. They don't know who it is. It's like, oh, for a big money donor, oh, you're asking me for $100,000 to give to Alliance 412, who's not officially affiliated with the university, and the money's going to get to the players, and I'm just supposed to trust you that that's what's going to happen. I could understand a little bit of skepticism in that situation, but if the athletic director walks to you and says, this is where the money needs to go, here's where you need to send it, here's how you do that, there's a little bit more like legitimacy and authenticity to it. And actually not authenticity, just legitimacy. Right now it's a legitimate thing being endorsed by the athletic director.
Yeah, I mean, I think we started to see that like just in like emails and links on the website and stuff like that. They've started to embrace it. They were just behind. So I think now, not only are they embracing it, they're going to push it, which is, ultimately the bigger deal. Yep.
Our good friend 210 Speed and Agility says, can Pitt finish 10-2 or undefeated this season? What's your thoughts? I had someone, I was communicating with a national writer last week or some point. We were talking about something, and they said, it was actually somebody who covers the ACC, and they were like, I feel like the floor for Pitt should be 9-3 this year. And I was like, yeah, I could get on board with that. Not obviously I think 9-3 would be a great record for them. That'd be a really good season, but I think I could convince myself that that's plausible, that they probably won't do worse than 3-3 in the final 6. based on who the games are, based on who I think Pitt is and how good I think Pitt is, I feel like that is. Do you think 9-3 is a floor for this team, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk yourself into. I mean, I think every game. Obviously, we talked last week, like first half of the schedule and second half. There's a completely bigger difference in just records. I mean, they're playing better teams at the second half of the year. But I mean, you can talk yourself into saying like, I think Pitt can beat Virginia and Boston College and probably Syracuse. Then see what they can do in those other 3 games. I mean, if you kind of like reasonably balance, within those 6 games, there's these 3 and these 3. Yeah, I mean, you take 2 out of 1 against this group and 1 out of 2 against the other group, and there you are.
Yeah, and I don't think 10 wins is completely like this is the kind of conversation we have, and then they'll go lose to Syracuse, and people will be like, "What are you talking about? They're going to lose out and finish 6-6." I don't think 10-2 is completely out of the picture. I think there will be. I don't think they're going to go undefeated. I think there'll be a loss or 2 in there, or 3. Like I say, but like I could talk myself into it. I could talk myself into beating, what you just said, right? Syracuse, Virginia, Boston College. So if you can do that, if you can take care of those 3 games that you probably should win, now you just need to steal one and you're at 10 wins. And I don't even know if I would consider it stealing at that point because you'd be one of the top 12 teams in the country.
Yeah.
But go to SMU, Clemson at home, go to Louisville, and who knows? In order of difficulty, it might actually be that way with going to SMU being the most difficult, and then Clemson at home, and then going to Louisville. I mean, they could totally steal one of those games. Like, I don't think it's crazy at all.
No, I mean, even just Clemson in general. I mean, like obviously they're going to have like a talent advantage, but just how they play, like I think it's just going to naturally be a close game. Like I think it's going to play out a lot similar to the 2021 game where it's going to be like 27-17, but like when you're in that kind of game and you could score quickly like Pitt can, like you're always in it. So like, yeah, I mean, SMU for me is the toughest game they have left just because SMU is confident. They're rolling. It's at home. We're going to have to wait a couple days. It's probably going to be a night game if they're waiting this long. I just have a feeling like that's where it's heading. So that's just going to be such a hard game, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I really don't want it to be a primetime game for a lot of reasons.
I fly out at 7:30 the next morning. I won't.
Oh, you're not sleeping. You're not sleeping at all. Like it's just like you can cancel the second night of your hotel. Although the only downside to that, because I actually did that once with a Rutgers game, I had 2 nights, and the game ended up being a night game. So I'm like, well, I'll just cancel the second night. I don't need that because I was like driving up to Secaucus the next night or something like that. But the problem is I had to be out of my room at 11 a.m. So I'm like, crap, what am I going to do with my whole day? I completely forgot about it. I went out to my car and then tried to come back in a side door. And I'm like, oh, key doesn't work. What the heck? What's going on here? I go up to the front desk. I'm like, my key doesn't work. What's going on? And they're like, well, you're checked out. I'm like, wait, what? I had to get all my stuff. Completely forgot about that whole complication. All right. Let's see here. We'll take this last one because this is great. Splay Basils, I guess, says, hey, Chris, I'm just wondering what you think Amsal Delilich will do for Pitt hoops this year. I mean, I've made no secret of my high expectations for the 6'7" Bosnian wing who can shoot. Jeff Cable said last night that he's like, hopefully we'll get him back for the opener. I didn't think the opener was really in play. Did you?
I mean, within the 6-week general time frame of his injury, like he was going to be back by like the 3rd game. So like I could see it not being out of the realm of possibilities. I was at practice on Saturday. He was there like in a uniform, just running stairs. Like he looks fine. It's just he has a cast on his hand. So I could see him being able to get up to speed rather quickly.
Yeah, that was Capel's way of appraising it. He's like, I don't know how he's doing, but the cast keeps getting smaller. So I guess he has an appointment tomorrow, and maybe he can get out of the cast altogether. I think he's going to be really good. I don't know if he's going to start, but I think he's going to play a lot of minutes. I think he's going to score a lot of points. I don't know if you saw on Saturday, I did an interview with Jalen Lowe and Ishmael Leggett together. And like those guys couldn't rave enough about him, about his vision, about his handle, about his passing ability. Like they said he's like another guard out there with the way he can handle the ball. And I mean, that's pretty high praise coming from Jalen Lowe and Ishmael Leggett. I don't think they would say that if they didn't really believe it, if there wasn't some truth to it. And so I think he's going to be awesome. Sometimes I play it up a little bit with the hyperbole, but I actually genuinely do think he's going to be really good this year and add another element to this team. You didn't get a chance to see last night, did you? The exhibition game, Jim?
No, it was not on TV.
Yeah, no streaming options, but everything else will be streamed, right? Like all the
I would think so
Radford
at this
and
point, yeah.
Is there some of the games that are on the Ohio State game is on? Did we talk about this last week?
Yeah.
That I'm gonna just drive to Columbus because but I refuse.
What else are you gonna do on Black Friday?
Yeah, I'll just take the kids. We'll just get in the car and go to Columbus for a Pitt basketball game. That'd be fun, actually. Columbus is low key a great gluten-free city, so maybe actually we'll do that. It'd be a good time, fun little getaway. Anyway, all right, it's past 8:30, so I appreciate everybody tuning in for tonight. Don't forget, we'll have the live show after the game tomorrow night, the live post-game show. And then we'll have a live taping of the Morning Pit on Friday morning. Can't wait for that. It's going to be fun. We'll all be tired and cranky, but at least we'll all be tired and cranky together. So thanks, everybody, for the comments and the questions tonight. It's been a lot of fun. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Jim, thanks for your time, as always. We'll see everybody at the stadium tomorrow night, and we'll catch up with you. We got a Morning Pit tomorrow, a live show tomorrow night, and then the live Morning Pit on Friday morning. Lots of videos right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So thanks again. Have a great evening, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.